Hello and welcome back. We are working on the Scarborough Needle Arts 50th anniversary sampler, and we're going to dive right into this piece by starting with the bluffs. For this you're going to need a number 8 and number 12 pearl cotton. I'm working with the gold colorway to represent the 50th anniversary in color number 676. This can be any color that you've chosen for your theme, just so long as it's an 8 and a 12. The Scarborough is home above the bluffs. The bluffs are a natural landscape feature that shape the waterfront, and I felt that it just needed a prominent place in our sampler as it's the city and where we meet. I have yet to actually have a chance to visit the bluffs myself and hope to do that in the coming months. So let's dive in. When looking at this chart, this is the top of your sampler right along here, and this is the top left-hand corner. We are going to be working with a coral knots and chain stitch, which is typical to a schwam outline, except where schwam is surface embroidery, we will be doing mostly counted work, just to take a little bit of that fear out of where does this stitch actually go. So when we dive right in, we're going to work right in the top corner, and our thread is going to come up two threads in and 2 threads down for that first section of our stitch. And when we count, I like to count from right here being our first knot, whereas our thread does come down. This will be our first knot going in. Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to imagine, for the sake of the video, that this is the top left corner of my sampler. I am working on a 18 count mono canvas, so it's thick. It's not definitely ideal to be doing a sewing method of embroidery, but I think it's going to be the best thing that's going to give us structure for the video for you to see what I'm working on. So with my number 8, I'm going to be using a green pearl cotton just to hopefully show up a little bit better in the video. And with that, I've already threaded my needle, and I'm going to start with an away knot. So if you've not done an away knot before, it's a quilter's knot. So to do so, you're going to take your tail end of the thread and wrap it around the needle 2 to 3 times and pull your needle through. And this creates just a tiny little knot at the end of your tail. From there, you're going to take your needle, and about 3 to 4 inches away from where you start, you're going to sink your needle into the fabric with the knot on top. This gives you enough tail end to come in at the end and weave it back in. Enough to get started. All right, so again, here's the top edge of my fabric, and this is my top left corner. I am going to count 2 threads in from where my basting lines meet. So 2 threads in and 2 threads down. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's where I'm going to come up for my first section in a coral knot stitch. Now a coral knot stitch is easy. Oops, let's try not to hit the canvas frame. You can do this in hand, it's no trouble. If you do want to have a little bit more stability and something to pull against, having your fabric in a hoop and a frame can work for you. I do a little bit of both, but this is definitely able to be done in hand. So from where my thread comes up, I'm going to count 2 stitches, 2 stitches or 4 threads down. So again, 2 threads, 4 threads, and that's where my working tail is going to end up. But I'm going to take my needle 1 thread to the left over that center where my thread is working, and take that thread to the right. Again, for the video, the canvas works best. Not great for a sewing method. Typically when working a coral knot, it is done from the right to the left. For the sake of trying not to move and turn you too much, I'm going to be working upside down, like top to bottom. I found when actually doing the stitch myself, I liked working bottom to top and turning my canvas or my fabric as I went. Okay, so with your working end of the yarn, you're going to lay it up over your needle, down underneath the tip, and around. It kind of creates a cursive E effect. I like to snug that up and then pull my needle through to create my first coral knot. So let's do that one more time. I'm counting 2, 4 threads down, 1 thread on either side of that center mark. So 2, 4, one side, 1 side on either side of the center mark, bringing my thread up, over, around, and tying in like a letter E in a cursive. So the way I'm teaching might not necessarily be the correct or standard method. It is what works best for me and how I count. If this doesn't work for you, I suggest taking a doodle cloth and trying out different methods. So 2, 4, and 1 on either side. I'm not going to police the sampler. So really, if you can figure out the stitch in a different method or a different technique, please go ahead and do what's comfortable for you. I want this just to be about learning and testing stitches and introducing you to different techniques, but I don't want you to go, oh, I really hate that because I have to do it like that, or like that. I like this is going to be policed or graded, or it's meant as an introduction and a teaching sampler to just take your time, go through, learn the stitch. You might find you don't like this stitch, and that's completely okay. You do have 4 bluffs to do, but once you've done that, you don't ever have to do the coral knot again if you don't like it. Now, the coral knot and the chain stitch, and why we will be doing that, it helps hold your threads and your stitches even when you're doing an open or pulled work piece and filling in. So we will be filling in our bluffs in either black work or pulled thread. So it's just going to give you an area to pull and work against by creating this outline border. Okay, so we're going to think of this as 33 knots down. Okay, and when I am saying 33 knots, I am counting from my first knot that I've worked, and I've counted down the 33 stitches. Or, well, not stitches, I should say, but knots to get to this center point here. Now, this is actually coming up and over your center line of basting. Please don't worry about that. Now, what makes the bluffs so beautiful is their imperfections in the rock crevices and landfalls. So please, if you're a little bit out in your counting, don't stress about it. The black work and the pulled threads are going to give you really easy compensating stitches when you fill in, so that you don't have to worry about it. Let's take that out because I'm getting caught in it. So let's say I'm down my 33 threads. Now, to me, I found the easiest way to take my corner was actually to put a little stitch in. So I'm going to take from right where my thread comes up, over and diagonally down 1, or right on the opposite side of that. first stitch, that's just going to give me a nice anchoring point. So let's do that one more time. So my thread has just finished the knot, and I'm coming down and angling right over that little crossed threads, one thread down from where I took the knot. And I'm doing this because I found myself I couldn't get a nice corner, and that's what works best for me. It might not work for you. Please, again, it's trial and error, and it's about just learning and having fun with this piece. So from there, I'm coming up right in the center of that knot and taking my corner stitch. So I'm going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and taking a thread on either side of that center where my knot forms. Nope, that's under 3, not 4, not 2. There we go. And then I'm going to take my working thread up over my needle, down around the back to create my E, and pulling through. And then I'm just going to continue on. Everyone counts differently, and I wish I could teach how I count, but I can't. Really strange, because I know when I said the top corner here, we weren't going to count that stitch, and I counted down 33. I would actually count out this way, probably including that stitch. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 knots. And I count the knots, and I'll probably throughout the video continue calling it a stitch, because that is the full stitch for a coral knot piece. And we're again working it over 4 threads. I hope this is working out okay for you, and that the pattern is clear enough. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below or email us directly, and I will try to answer everything. If I find that I have a lot of the same questions, I might try to do a video just trying to answer everything in the meantime. So again, up, round the tip of my needle, creating an E and pulling through. And one more time for the sake of the video. Up, up, around that needle and down. Create an E and pulling through. And then if I was going to say turn the corner, I'm now done my 17 stitches and ready to turn that corner. I could take the stitch out over here to anchor it, come back up. So let's try that again. Come back up where my knot is forming to create and continue my coral knots going up this way. I hope that's a little helpful. Again, the pattern is countable, and every knot forms at 4 threads. So in the pattern, your knots are this black outline piece that's done in the number 8 pearl cotton. This yellow line here is your chain stitch, and that is done in your number 12 pearl cotton in your colorway. So to start with our chain stitch, I would like to do one complete bluff first and then go in with my chain, but for the sake of the video, it's going to be easier to demonstrate it at this point. I'm working with an orange to hopefully show up a little bit better, but again, this is going to be in your matching number 12 weight. I again will be starting with an away knot. And like how we started in the top left hand corner, I will be working the rest of the bluff pattern typically from the bottom left corner of each bluff. So counting where my last knot is, I'm going to count 2 stitches up and 2 stitches over. No, not stitches. I keep saying stitches, I mean threads. I am going to count up 2 threads and 2 threads and come up there to do my first. Ooh, my knot was not big enough. It did not hold. So let's try that again. Just with a quilter's knot, pulling it through to the end. Hopefully that knot's a lot bigger. Starting about 3 to 4 inches away from my fabric, I'm going to anchor that knot on the top. And then I'm going to come up from my bottom left hand corner where that knot is, and I'm going to count 2 threads up and 2 threads over. And this is where I like to start my chain stitch. It may not be where you find you're most comfortable to start your chain stitch. And please, if you have a different way of working your chain stitch or a different method, please, again, I'm not going to police how it's done. I'm not going to critique it. It's about ease of comfort. I will say the chain stitch is probably my least favorite stitch. It's just one of those stitches that I struggle with getting each stitch concise and like to repeat it consistently. So you come up again at 2 threads over and 2 threads up. I will be working from right to left and up and around my bluff that way. So for the chain stitch, your needle goes back in where your working threads come up. You're going to count 2 threads over from where that working thread went back down in. Take your loop up and around and gather it in and pull it snugly against your working thread. From there, you're going to put your needle back down in the same hole and over and around to form your loop. Count the 2 threads and come up snugly and snug that in. And you're going to continue that up and around your bluffs. I hope that makes sense and is easy to follow. The chain stitch is an easy stitch, so there's nothing to fear in it. And it's nice that it's counted because it does help with that consistency. And you're just going to work that up and around. When you come to your corner, what you're going to do is you're going to sink your needle back down in that working hole, and you're just directly going to like flip and take the corner at 90 degrees, counting up the 2 threads. Woo, I'm sorry, I just knocked the camera on you. All right, to form that corner stitch. And then from there, you're just going to continue up and over. Now, I think the nice thing about the chain stitch, it'll be a lot easier to see and manipulate because you already have your coil knots in place when it comes to doing the top curve of the bluff. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. Now, I'm just going to do, for the sake of the video, taking my chain stitch back down and around just quickly here, just to show you how I would end my chain stitch when you come up and around. So when you come to the point where you're ready to join your chain stitch, what you're going to do is either with like the really blunt needle or even with the eye of your needle, you're going to work it under the first stitch, picking up those 2 loops that sit on top of the fabric and bring your needle through to form a loop that way to catch your stitch and create your chain. And then you just come back down where that stitch originated. I hope that makes sense. You can also take just a little straight stitch to help anchor it too, whatever works best for you. And that's your chain stitch. The chain stitch is nice and easy. So I'm going to disorient you for just a little second and pull down a sample of an outline of the bluffs. So the curve is completely countable. You just have to remember that one tiny square is equal to 2 threads by 2 threads. So if that works for you and counting is something that you're familiar with and you like to do, you're more than able to count out your curve and come up and meet. If counting is not your thing and you're worried about getting a nice curve on your line, please feel free to come in with like a friction fine liner or a clover erasable blue marker or even a chalk marker, something that is going to come out of your fabric. Always do a test stitch just to make sure that, not a test stitch, but always do like a test mark to make sure that like it will come out of your fibers. I've seen some fabrics and some markers ghosts, so I really do recommend doing a test. Okay, so like I said, if you've done 29 crowel knots up, this stitch would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threads up and 2 threads over. Okay. So doing this first section here, you're going to count up 2, 4, 6 threads over 2 to get your center placement of where your knot is going to form. And then on either side of that middle stitch where your knot is going to form, you're going to take that little bite of fabric or 2 threads under to start your form of your knot. So again, I'm counting up 1, 2, 4, 6, or 3 stitches, taking it over the 2 threads or 1 stitch. And then because that's directly where my needle is where I want my knot to form, I'm going to take it on either side of that center thread and take the 2 threads for my stitch. Bring my thread up and over and around to form my E, and then pull it through to form my knot. And that is that first section here in the curve. Now if that's not something you want to do or continue doing, please feel free to come in with your fine liner. It is 11 stitches over to this like first line here. So how I'm counting that is I'm taking straight up here, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, well maybe it's 12, sorry. 12 to right there. I would probably take a pin and count that out, knowing that I want it to fall in that line, and count my 12, mark it with a pin to be where my curve wants to end, and then come in with my fine liner, chalk marker, or erasable water marker and draw in my curve that way. Something that's going to come out so that if you're not following exactly your stitch, it is still going to be able to come out of your fabric. So don't panic. It is countable, but you can also come in, draw in your curve, match it up, and then just continue on with your line. If you find when you come up to the top of your curve and you're not working in a 4 pattern, I like to do a little like sneaky, like compensating, where I'll like try to make sure it matches. It doesn't need to match where my coral knots need to match, so I'll take 1 or 2 extra threads, well, right when I'm taking that first right in here, just to kind of give me a spot where my stitches are going to match at 4 threads over. But like I said, it's not needed. You will find you probably need to compensate here when you come to join and do your last coral knot. I hope that this video was clear and concise and easy to follow. If you have any questions, again, please comment down below or reach out to me via email. I'm happy to try to answer everything I can, and I'm looking forward to our next stitching date in October. For October, it would be lovely if you could get all 4 bluffs done. If you're not comfortable and you're working a little slower, that is fine. Really, for October, all you're going to need is the first bluff done. That's it. Once you have the first bluff done, we'll be able to go on and work on from there. And then in November, you will need your 4th bluff, at least the outline put in, to count. So you've got a couple months to get in your full bluffs. This isn't a race. You don't have to worry or panic about getting all 4 bluffs done right away. If you can at least have your first outline done, it will definitely help us move on in October to get in our black work or pulled thread piece. Thank you.